You're listening to iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 966. I am Josh Flanagan, here with my buddy, my co-jamoke, Conor Kilpatrick.
Hey, Josh. Hey, people.
Hey, that's so
Hey, everybody.
we don't talk like that. Welcome to iFanboy 2025. That's right. It is the year 2025. It is our 20th year of doing the show, and it is our 25th year of doing iFanboy.
Do you even remember those first 5 years?
I have a sense memory of it, you know?
So long ago.
I remember like the inception.
Yep.
And the yeah, I remember bits, but not really. Like, I don't remember the sort of process outside of doing like the pick of the week. That part became very routinized, but I don't know
Terrible
what we
picks of the week.
did other than that. Like, I know we put things up, but it was pretty catch as catch can for a while.
Yeah. What a time. What a time to be alive.
What a time to do something in a complete vacuum. Every week for 25 years, one of us has picked the book that they like best from their stack of comics, and we call that the pick of the week. That was all learning. That was all learning. We would be worse at this had we not done our 10,000 hours.
Absolutely.
We will talk about that comic book. We get to talk about other books from the week. We get to talk there's listener mail. There's a patron pick. There's other things that will come up.
Yes.
Issues will arise sometimes
all kinds
organically.
of issues. We've got them.
Yeah.
Comics issues, emotional issues, they will all arise throughout the conversation.
It'll be a fun time. There will be spoilers for the comic books that are discussed. Maybe. It's not a promise that there will be spoilers. It is a promise that there could be. You know, we're respectful, but you know, we got a job to do at the same time. Connor, speaking of jobs to do, you had yours.
I did. I'm still getting over a little bit being sick. That terrible flu running through the country has still got me a little bit. So just apologies in advance.
It's unprofessional is what it is.
It is unprofessional. I shouldn't have gotten sick. A big week of comics. I had a lot of books, 22 books, something like that.
I had 20.
I enjoyed them for the most part. There was a lot of fun stuff to read, stuff I liked.
Yes.
Couldn't fit everything onto the show that we wanted to talk about. The after shows like gonna have like 18 books on it or something crazy.
And I'll tell you right now, they're gonna be quick.
So it was funny to me that a book that I threw on the rundown at the last second ended up being the book that I was thinking about the most when I was done with my stack, and that was Red Hulk #1 from Marvel Comics, Benjamin Percy, Jeff Shaw, surprising.
Yeah.
On art. This is a One World Under Doom tie-in. And I know that they did a Red Hulk book because they've got the Captain America movie. For the same reason they have a Sam Cap book out right now. But and originally I was going to skip it, but I saw it was a One World Under Doom tie-in. I'm really enjoying One World Under Doom. I saw that Jeff Shaw was drawing it for some reason, and I thought, well, let me just read the first issue and I'll see if it's a dumb cash grab. I won't read the second.
And Ben Percy is not a no thank you name. It's
no. Ben Percy's done good work. We've enjoyed.
Yep.
And so I thought, well, I'll give this first one a shot. And I mean, it's pick of the week. I really loved it. I thought it was terrific. Jeff Shaw is such a great artist and such an unusual style. Like it's kind of comic booky, but it's really kind of not. And to do a Hulk book is so interesting.
I think it's changed since initially. He was on. He did it with Donny Cates.
He's Donny Cates' guy.
He did some indie thing, and then he did
several books.
Thanos. He did some Thor.
Yep.
He did some maybe Doctor Strange.
But those are all the strange end of the spectrum of superheroes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I feel it's toned down here, if that makes sense. And again, not in a bad way.
So what you have here is a story that takes a lot of familiar elements, but puts them together in a fun way where, you know, we find out that Doom has sort of a secret prison. He has many of them in Latveria, but he's got the secret prison underground where he's keeping sort of military minds, and he's using those people to sort of game out scenarios so he can counter them. So he has Thunderbolt Ross down there. He has Deathlock down there. He has Machine Man. He has a bunch of other people who I don't even recognize. A professor of political science, the leader of the Hook Cartel, this guy, General Simon Riker, like just all kinds of people. And he goes down there. His Doombots go down there and they interrogate him. It gets kind of like Silence of the Lambsy. It's Silence of the Lambsy and the layout of the prison. and then it becomes a breakout story in which General Thunderbolt Ross realizes
Doom loves Jonathan Demme.
They got to get out of here, and so it becomes how are they going to break out? Like there's a lot of fun elements, and I thought at the end of it was a really satisfying read because it starts off one way. There's a plane crash. They're going to use it to blame another country, start a nuclear war. But it actually didn't happen. It was just a scenario they were positing.
That was my question because it's not, over the Yellow Sea. It's played out exactly like it really happened, but there's not like a firm, that this was just an imagining, a reenactment kind of thing, or that it didn't happen later. But I don't think that's what I mean. I came away, but I wasn't quite. Because at first I was like, "You killed people on the plane."
He says, "I would do it alone." Which
yes,
the "would" implies it hasn't happened.
Right, unless that
this is hypothetically this could be used to accomplish. This could be accomplished by, but I would do it alone. That indicates that it was a.
It scenario. Does, but also you could frame it in such a way that he says that, and we see that he's already done it. So Doom forced him to do it one way or another. That could have been a thing, and then he went. They have this little escape revolution thing, and I was like, okay, that probably didn't happen, but.
Yeah, no, it totally didn't happen. And so I just thought I thought the art was terrific. I liked all this strange grouping of characters coming together using Morse code. And I saw immediately when the Doom threw Ross into the vent and all the pieces fell down. It's like, well, those are a bunch of really handy pieces of metal there he's going to use to escape all the screws and hinges.
Oh, wow. That's a really neat visual foreshadowing, actually. I didn't notice that.
And so, it just was really fun. I love an escape, escape story. I love a ragtag group coming together to overcome an obstacle, and I thought it was paced really well. I thought it looked wonderful. I really like the shot on page 26 of all the Doombots flying in angrily as I think it's the last page of the story as Ross is turning. Like we don't only see Hulk in the scenario in the opening sequence. The rest of the time it's just Ross. Navigating his way through all these scenarios. I thought this was a real. I just think there's so many fun elements to this Doom story, and this is one of them. Is these people that are under lock and key, and how can they get out? And I thought it was great.
A couple of thoughts. One of them, not really a criticism. One thing I just thought was a little weird in the art. When the page reveal, when we see Ross in his cell and Doom is standing there, I was like, why does he have one arm? It's behind his back, but it just could have been like it's a little weird looking. It's funny because I'm looking at that right now and it's a perfectly fine drawing, but I'm thinking about how to draw comics the Marvel way. And I was like, he should puff his chest up a little. He should stand up, like just whatever. Then also, in fact, the next page, he's also still standing like that. And it really looks like he's missing half his arm. I like the art. It's not a huge problem. The only other thing that I came away from this is thinking like, this is a pretty evil Doom, or at least I guess it's not. I guess Doom may not necessarily be in this, but if he's kidnapping,
he is in this. He shows up and does the magic and moves him around. That's actual Doom.
You're right. And I was kind of like, I wish, and again, you need this for the story, but I was like, Doom wouldn't leave vents open. He's a genius. So I liked it a lot. I wouldn't say I loved it, but what I really did like was that this is, I didn't see the movie, but this is Marvel Red Hulk, not MCU Red Hulk, because it's not Ross in the movie, right? That's
no, it is Ross in the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. Okay. No mustache. But this is like the Marvel continuity one.
Yep.
And I didn't know that he was still Red Hulk. I feel like
I didn't either, but I think maybe he's always Red Hulk.
Yeah. When you need him to be for the story, then you can.
I think
he's ageless.
For the purposes of this Doom story, you need to center your mind in the reality that he is back to being evil Doom for this story. He comes and goes, but for now, he's back to being evil Doom. Because that's clearly what he's doing in the story. He's bad. There was even a little bit, I thought, maybe this was just my brain overwriting it, but I thought he even had Jeff shot a little bit of Hardman. I know I associate Hardman with Red Hulk, but a little bit of his, like, maybe the style's a little different, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic than normal, even though he does sort of over exaggerate in great ways.
I think there's a couple pages here with quite a lot of black, which is the thing. The layouts don't really look like Hardman.
No, not the layouts.
I mean, I can see it, but I wouldn't have thought it if you hadn't said it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the figure of Ross is correct. It's an old man who's not fat, but he's not like overbuilt. He's he's skinny. It's weird to say it, but a lot of comic book artists can't really do a bunch of body types. And I was like, oh,
that's regular body.
Yeah,
I mean, he's fit, but he's not like muscly.
Right, and he's obviously like gaunt, and that's the whole thing, and it's very consistently done, and different shape than Machine Man, and and Doom's sort of larger presence as he sits there, and of course Red Hulk also.
So yeah, so if you ended up skipping this for many good reasons, and you're enjoying One World Under Doom, I'd say go back and check it out. This is a really fun issue, but we'll stay in One World Under Doom with Fantastic Four 722 or 29 from Ryan North and new artist to the book, Corey Smith. The art was fine. I didn't love the art, but it was fine.
It was, yeah, I'd say that's about right. It wasn't bad. It felt different than the art that has been in the book so far, in a way. Yeah. But I do think it was sort of appropriate in the sense of Sue, Ben, and Jen on the streets of New York. Yeah, I think he did that part well. That's sort of grounded. I mean, a lot of it was friends talking around a table.
There was one thing in here where, it's just the stuff that happens in your brain when you're reading a superhero comic. You put it aside. It wasn't a big deal, but it did make me go, huh? In which they said everything in this issue happened in one day.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I thought it was like weeks because he's developing this cure. He takes it to like the scientific community. They manufacture the cure. It's being sent to all around the world, and then they were like, "Well, that was a crazy day." And I was like, "Wait, what? You couldn't do all that in one day?"
Like you're definitely not arranging a meeting at the UN to sort of get something out.
Let alone manufacturing this thing and sending it out.
Yeah, or just the fact that everybody I don't know, whatever. It's the superhero world.
Yeah.
There is a great page after that. So we're talking about 19. Top panel, that is like a recreation of the great New York City walking down the street scene from many movies. Like you can picture like Midnight Cowboy or Urban Cowboy, or whatever it was. That's just a great I'm like, oh, they're there. That is the streets of New York. I really appreciate that after all these people who can't draw pizza. There's going to be a continuing theme that I noticed this week that is starting to bother me.
Okay.
And we're going to see it in a bunch of books that worked here. And I'm going to hold it. And then I'm going to refer back to this. Because
so you're not going to mention it now.
I'm going to not. I'm just going to say we're going to put a pin in this. Okay. And then I'm going to discuss the issue. Or I will just do it now. Anyway,
in the room.
Man, you know what? I changed my mind. Okay. There's a pretty clear metaphor going on with this.
There is?
Yes. Yes, there is. And
no,
it's not what I want. I believe that realism has a place in comics. But over and over this week, and we're going to do the math, 3 months. These comics were all being written in November and December.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And we're seeing these feelings come out, which are entirely valid. And I don't disagree really, but I am not in a Marvel comic for this.
Let me just say this. You just said it, and I'll reiterate what you said. Obviously, real world politics and things have a very strong place in history and in mainstream superhero comics.
Yes.
It's always been there. It's always more efficient and better when you do it in a fictional setting and not quite on the nose, or more subtle was what I should have said.
This is not on the nose as some of the other ones, but
it's pretty on the nose.
Oh, absolutely. Like I don't.
But my point is this, though. We went through this 8 years ago, where for 4 years, every comic was the comic community's political panic, and it wasn't fun then. And I'm not looking for more of it now. And this is where we're heading. And I get it. Exercise your demons, but geez.
I want to be very, very clear. I am not a person who is saying keep my politics out of comics or my beliefs.
We're just saying make it more subtle.
I think make it more subtle. And it's interesting because I would think, this for Ryan. Now, Ryan North's Canadian, just for the point of,
and they're pissed.
I think that, which is really saying something, and they're not apologizing for it. I understand the vampire as a stand-in for immigration, but it's a vampire, and they just tried to kill everybody a month ago. And I was
that's what I was thinking during the scene where they take him back to the house with the kids, because the whole thing is Jen and Sue and Ben are hanging out, having a day in the city. They come across this vampire. There's vampires outside. Like, first we meet a very nice waitress. She's super nice to Ben. Clearly he's a regular. But then she's like, yeah, but there's, these vampires are all outside and begging for money, and they're a monster. Somebody's got to do something with them. And so then they run outside. They go outside and they find a vampire family being chased by a mob. And the parents get killed. They get staked. But there's 2 kids. And so they take the kids back home, hang out with their kids. And it's like, Ben's like, yeah, but they're just little kids. I'm like, they are little kids, but they're also vampires who want to eat your kids. And so that's where it gets complicated.
I don't want to have to deal with vampire relations and how they're just like, can we just make them the monsters? I want the vampires, like, make it about fucking immigration. Have it be that. I'm cool with that. I don't like this metaphor.
That's because you're anti-vampire. You always have been. You've always been saying, get them out of your country.
Get the bloodsuckers out.
You want them out of your state, your town.
It also works. I mean, if you're looking at what's happening it's actually almost the same setup as what's happening in DC versus Vampires, that there's sort of a truce and they're all supposed to live together. But, the underlying thing of that is like, these vampires are evil and dangerous.
Yeah.
And we're trying to live with them. And this is like, no, they're still I don't know.
What you're saying is the metaphor breaks down when the person in the metaphor is actually a dangerous monster.
Is right. And I
just tries to kill the kids in this issue.
Yeah.
So it's tough. But anyway, Reed makes this plant-based cure, not a cure, a plant-based alternative to human blood.
Right. And that stops them from going monstery.
So as long as they eat that, they don't want to suck your blood and eat your face. And so that's what he does in one single day. Tells the scientific community, gets the formula out there, and saves the day. But then the big twist is across the street. I'm sure this is Josh's daily life. Across the street from his house is a house covered in giant flags and signs. Trust in Doom. Only Doom can save us. Believe in Doom. Not subtle.
No. And this goes back to the thing where I think this story is more interesting if Doom is in a gray area instead of fully.
That's just how you like Doom the best.
No, I think it works for the story better, because the turn here is always going to be like that they have to defeat evil. And sometimes a story where somebody's really gray works and some it doesn't. I think there's a story from today, I don't remember where it was, where it was a gray area, and I was like, I don't like this being gray. But with Doom, I don't know. Yes, but I think that it makes the idea that half the people are kind of for him more interesting.
Well, I mean, they already did that in the first issue of One World Under Doom.
Right.
He's like, he's giving them free healthcare. He's giving them free schools. That's the gray area. The non-gray area, he's still a supervillain.
Yeah. Well,
let's take a quick break. We got way more comics to talk about. We'll be back right after this.
We haven't talked about Uncanny Valley in a little while, and I'm reading it. Obviously, number 8 was out this week, and it is a different book than sort of it started.
Yeah.
But I don't mean that in a bad way. And I got to the end, I was like, that gave me a different feeling as before. But I still find it really interesting, because what they've done was, initially you took the silly cartoons and you added them into the real world. And now you're in the world of the silly cartoons, but you're seeing the real world stuff around it. And like watching like the daughter and the Yosemite Sam try to like work out real world shit. It's really interesting, and it's a really fine line that could go either way at any point. But at the end of it, I just thought, I was like, that's really good. I think it's really subtly done. And I'm every issue I find to be not like immediately like, oh man, that was amazing. But I was like, that's really interesting that they're kind of making it work.
Yeah, I think the last couple I wasn't so into.
Mm-hmm.
And this one brought me back into being interested in it again. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because we're spending all this time in the cartoon world. I don't know. I don't even remember what happened in those issues, if I'm being honest with you.
I mean, that was sort of the reveal of like who the bad guy was and what they wanted, and the little sort of final, like he sucks him into the world. Where I think the interesting thing was like at the beginning, the discovery, and now being in the world. That's interesting. How that happened, that middle, I kind of don't care about the conflict. The main sort of bad guy, what they want, I feel like it's going to be Toontown, and there's like we're disappearing and whatever.
I like the whole Smurf bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like when they. I also like. I mean, just to be fair, I like when they sort of play on actual cartoon characters. I mean, it's interesting.
Straddling the line of copyright infringement.
Right.
Every sprite. Hey, that's supposed to be every Smurf. That's clearly Papa Smurf and Smurfette, but whatever. It's fine.
It's Papa Sprite. Spritette.
And it does this thing where there's bits of it that have kind of like low grade Saturday morning cartoon morals. Like, hey, you're not different because you're bad. You're different because everybody's different. And there's something great about it. That's a thing you learn in Saturday morning cartoons. But then you cut to like the daughter who can't get over the fact that her dad wasn't there, and he's just a consarnate rootin' tootin',
That's the best part of the book. As you said, the father of daughter dynamic between a Yosemite Sam-esque character and a real world woman is interesting. And you were never there for me is interesting.
And you're kind of like I know, like in the real world, there's a real father. They're both human. Like there's no excuse. But I'm kind of like, well, he's a cartoon. Like he doesn't do things that make sense. He doesn't have funny. He doesn't have that. Like we don't expect a cartoon to have that sort of thought process. And so if you make it in this book that he doesn't, he's like, I don't know. I blow stuff up. And so it would never get resolved for her. It's kind of interesting. But at the same time, like her and the art, Dave Wachter has a lot to do with that because he's putting a ton of emotion and worry into her face. Like she is a really scared mom for, her son. And like, it really comes across in a very realistic way. Great cliffhanger at the end, a beautiful drawing. That last page, I think, is magnificent with her worried face, and then like this shot of her falling off a bridge, and you see it all in scale. So she's tiny, but then you move your eyes up and you see him. He's worried. He's reaching over the side. Just the difference between the two styles of art that are going on in here and the way that they're being melded is just incredibly impressive.
I don't think people understand how hard that is for an artist to do. To draw in different, multiple styles
in the same panel.
Because you put your brain in one space, then you got to take it out of that space to another space. It's hard. It's hard.
I bet he really likes coloring the cartoon stuff as opposed to the real life stuff.
It's easy.
Just boop. There we go. It's full purple.
Let's talk about Green Arrow 354. DC's been putting way more legacy numbering on the cover now, which is great. Issue 21, Chris Condon, the mysterious and elusive Montos. And
whose name is too close to Monsanto, which is too close to the subject matter. That's all I'm saying.
I love this book, even though it's not perfect, it's not great, but it's fun. It's a really fresh and new really fresh and interesting restart for Green Arrow. And this issue I thought was wonderful, in which we learn, as the cover might suggest, that there isn't just one killer; it's like the whole town that was poisoned by the chemical company is seeking revenge on those who did so. And I think this has been terrific.
I think that the comic book is very good. I really like the return to the very basic roots of this character and the idea that you are sort of exploring the both sides of his character, because they don't do that a lot. You kind of forget about the rich guy side.
He's not even in costume in this issue.
Yeah. But again, it's a little like, okay, so now he's the evil corporate boss, but yes, who's responsible for these things. And that puts Ollie Queen into a gray area, which I am not in love with.
Right.
If we're saying that he is responsible, or that he, his negligence, or I don't know how they're going to get out of it, but it's kind of like, oh, that's a rough one to let go.
Well, he did imply that he didn't sign it.
Right? Yes, I did notice that, which is an out, which is, I think, something that is definitely needed.
Because the killer, shows him the document that he signed off on that I basically allowed the company to spill the chemicals and then build a low-income housing project on top of it, or housing development to cover it up. And he's like, I did not sign this. I would have signed this. So clearly someone is screwing him.
It is though, and this isn't really a complaint, and I don't think on another week when I wasn't surrounded by comic books doing this, is that this is like a real world scary thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a little like I think this comic should be there and they should be doing it, but I'm also just like, oh God, it makes me so sad. Like our water is fucked up where I live. Like it's a real thing. I've read the books. I saw the movie with Mark Ruffalo. And it's one of those things that you can do the story every once in a while, which is like, oh, the superheroes can't fix this. And again, I'm not always in comics, especially lately. I am much more sensitive to it now.
As the older you get, the more conservative in your comic reading you're allowed. Keep this real world out of my comics.
No, it's honestly because I care so much about everything else and that's happening in real life that here I'm just like, what if we punch some thugs and or aliens?
Oh, I get it. I mean, I've always been saying it was that Paul Dini, Alex Ross Superman book. Like Superman can't punch hunger. So why bother telling the story? Because it's not going to be a satisfying conclusion. Here,
yes,
you can kill a bunch of chemical executives, and then all he can pay to clean it up, or he can pay to move them. I mean, you can do it.
Well, this is like the holy roller. Is that Ollie can't do it, but then we're gonna see all the people get their revenge on the bad guys in the background. It's just tricky. There's no way. There's no way this ends. Now the people who are the victims are also the killer. This is a great dramatic plot. Shoehorning into a superhero comic is tricky.
I don't
think it doesn't fit. It's just
I don't agree with Green Arrow because this would fit directly into the Mike Grell run.
I agree.
And I realized that was in the 80s, and I realized that was basically Vertigo, but I just don't think it's out of the realm for Green Arrow. If this was
I don't disagree with you. I think I just mean right now for me.
I get it. The world is on fire, and you don't really want to be reminded of it in your comics as much. I get it.
Which is not entirely a correct position on my part, by the way.
But also not entirely not understandable.
Right. I'm not saying you can't do this. I'm saying, man, I'm not into it right now.
I get it.
Yeah.
What you should do is take a Valium while I read this next part.
I don't think anything needs to make me more sleepy.
I'm so tired. I have not slept well in 2 weeks. You can see if you're watching YouTube, the bags under my eyes. It looks awesome. So happy we're doing this. Let's talk a bit about patreon.com/iFanboy. That's how you can help support the show. If you like what we do, if we bring some enjoyment to your comic book reading life, if you think that we're a worthwhile endeavor, we are listener supported, as almost all podcasts are. And we appreciate everybody goes to patreon.com/iFanboy and signs up to help. That's how you directly support the show. You become part of a great community on Discord and Facebook. You get to vote in the Patron Pick. You get a Patron Power Live on the show if you give it the proper level. You get to join the monthly Patron Hangout, which we just did last weekend. And at the $10 or higher level, you get an ad-free version of not only this show, but all of our shows. We put all of our shows up on that feed. And you also get this show, the Pick of the Week show, a day early on Saturday. Plus, you get access to the Fanboy After Show on Sundays, where we talk about all the books that didn't make the show's rundown. That's another 10 to 15-minute show that you get. It's all there at patreon.com/iFanboy. There's a discount if you sign up for 1 year. And now you can send or receive gift memberships. Go to patreon.com/iFanboy/gift for more info. Gift someone, random people. When I was in high school, we used to randomly sign up each other for magazine subscriptions. Now you can gift people Patreon memberships. Do it.
I mean, it's not a bad. It's not. At first, I was like, "Why would you do that?" Now I'm like, "Oh, it's not a bad gift." If you are a listener and you were to tell somebody, "Hey, this would be good. It would make me happy." Plus, you're getting some stuff.
We also had in the early days, and occasionally throughout the time, we would get a significant other sign up there or buy a Patreon for their significant other who was a fan, and so they would write in and say, "Don't give me the power, give it to my husband or whoever." And so now they could just give them a gift, and they could it'll be under their name. So that's a great thing they can do. iFanboy.threadless.com is our merchandise store. We got 20 designs on t-shirts and more. We added 7 new designs at the end of 2024. and we just are getting test shirts for 2 new designs that'll be coming out soon. What we always do when we have new designs is we get test shirts done to make sure it actually prints the way we want it to look, and we don't want to just put the design up there, have it come out, and have it look like shit when it prints. The dogs agree with me. Everyone agrees with me. Get the print.
We try to make sure that nobody arrives during recording, but
I'm just saying, we have 2 more coming.
Wait, here we go.
Okay, that's smarter. Josh just muted himself. Let's talk about iFanboy.com/support. This is where you can directly donate via PayPal. You know, there's a lot of billionaires doing a lot of weird things right now. What's weirder than giving some millions of dollars to a random comic book podcast? Nothing.
It's not the worst thing you could do.
No,
it's pretty inoffensive in terms of negatively affecting people, because what it's doing is very, very positively affecting a very few people.
Like 10 people. You know, if you gather them all the numbers together, you're really changing the lives of 10 people. If you need to burnish your image,
but you're not hurting anybody.
No one's getting hurt.
There you go. Like this, there's no trade-off here.
Exactly. So if you need to burnish your image as a billionaire, consider today iFanboy.com/support.
I really like this approach. I think it's going to work this time.
iFanboy.com/Amazon. You know, this is how you whether you like it or not, this is how we shop. And if you feel like shopping through Amazon, consider using the link. It helps us out. It doesn't take any money out of your pocket. Takes it out of the guy who's fucking with the papers pocket. And then we get help too. So we appreciate everybody who supports us the various ways. Oh, and also bookshop.org. I can't forget these guys. They support local bookstores. When you order from them, local bookstores fulfill the order. I just got my Lorne Michaels biography from bookshop.org. I'm about a sixth of the way through it. I can't put it down. I had to read comics.
Let's get back to the show.
So thank you, everyone who supports the show. We appreciate you. And now we are back talking about a book that Josh keeps talking about on the show. Iron Man 675, number 5.
This is the greatest offender of the issue that I was talking about this week.
Oh.
This is, I mean, the idea is, and I kind of forgot, but basically, this Latvian woman hires a bunch of unemployed S.H.I.E.L.D. people to lock up black people. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, was
it a One World Under Doom tie-in? It's not on the cover.
No, I don't quite know who she is. I think she was on the board of the beginning part that was taking over the company, and I think she's estranged from Doom. And then Riri is there, and like I'm not exactly sure what the force of the bad guy was, but the woman is spouting all these horrible things about U.S. economic policies and history and what has happened. And I was like, you supported Saddam and Mubarak, and I was like, all of these things are true.
Do you remember when Iron Man used to fight like Crimson Dynamo?
Yeah,
or like Whiplash, or
I think
whoever.
Crimson Dynamo is actually referenced here. No, that's in West Coast Avengers.
But I'm just saying. Remember when they used to just fight supervillains, and then occasionally you'd have things of real import that would be subtly crafted in, and it would break your heart. And it's supposed to be like hitting over you head over the head.
And then like the idea is like, okay, yeah, but you know, Latveria was subjugated. By the way, no, you know, by the weapons that Tony, you know, and the systems that he made, and
that wouldn't have ever happened to Tony's weapons because Doom would have been there.
I know, but like. Exactly. But either way, but it was a different, I was about to say agenda. I get what they're trying to get across here, but I was like, this is too heavy handed. Like in the Marvel universe, do we have Saddam and Mubarak and what, like, that's too close. Like make it, I mean, I think that it's one of those reasons, like overall over time, because these really are supposed to be sort of children's stories. And I love history. I'll read history books all day long and learn all about it. And these are all true things, but I was like, this is like these characters, like you were talking about this with Batman. You say, all right, he's a billionaire, he's in charge of a company, and then it's too real.
In the context of the comics, he's got to be one of the good ones. He's got to be.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the way it has to be. Otherwise, why are we reading into this? It's just, and again, we're not. I don't know. People are gonna think what they think about what we think, but
I think that this might be for some people. But I would have said this about this. I know earlier I was saying, oh, it's too much real world stuff, and this isn't actually reflecting the specific events of today or whatever. I just thought it was too specific and too on the nose. And you've got Tony Stark, Iron Man, lovable drunk inventor, having to justify why S.H.I.E.L.D. in the U.S. did bad things and why he was part of it. And I was like,
super fun
I'm not
read.
here for this. And he has no justification. You can't, this guy can't talk his way out of it. And we did it. We've done this like 3 times. And that's why he went and he gathered all of the weapons and he got rid of them. He spent his fortune.
That's right.
And now somebody's like, so they dealt with that issue. And now we're having somebody go after him because of it again, and an unrelated thing in the very next arc. And I was like, man, and he's sick and he's broken in this crappy suit. And I'm just like, oh, are you out? Are you
subtlety is your friend?
Are you out of superhero Iron Man ideas? Because in the 50 whatever years, like I have seen all of it. And like the job is not this, I don't think.
I think there's a lot of writers in comics. I was going to say who write to Twitter, but they write to Blue Sky. They're not writing fun stories. They're writing to a very specific audience because they spend all their day on it. And I know this because I go on there now with their iFanboy account and see that these guys posting hundreds of times a day.
Right.
And I think that's what they're doing. Let's move on. Are you going to keep reading this book? Okay. If you were at home, he shook his head. Green Lantern 587. Again, awesome legacy numbering on the cover. Issue 20. I wanted to mention this. This was a great issue. I'm not overhyping it. This was a great comic. This was the runner-up for Pick of the Week. It was 2 stories. So the whole thing Green Lantern right now is that the sort of emotional energy exploded out into the universe, and random people or random aliens or however you want to call them will absorb this energy and overload them. And so this is a story of this one dude on a planet who's got a pretty crappy life. His wife's cheating on him. The government takes all of his money. Then he gets shaken down by gangs for protection money. Like his life sucks. And so he absorbs the rage energy, turns to a rage monster. Hal Jordan has to go stop him. And it's just a one and done story about that. Ends tragically. But while that's happening, you've got Kyle Rayner, Connor Kent, and this other random woman on an adventure to the Source Wall, which is one of my favorite sort of Silver Age, Bronze Agey kind of concepts in DC Comics. This crazy wall with all these dead gods embedded in them. It's so cool. What's on the other side of the wall? I just assume more space because space is you can 3-dimensional. You can go around it, but it doesn't matter.
I love Metron's chair. Just by the way,
but here's the kicker: they have to go into one of the mouths. They realize one of those gods is fake. It's not a real god. So they go into the mouth, and Kyle Rayner makes himself up to be Indiana Jones, puts a little fedora on, he's got a whip. And then
that's why I like Kyle Rayner, that kind of thing.
They have to steal this like canister of pure Source Wall energy, and it looks exactly like Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's on a little plinth thing, and there's traps. So you have this one really emotional kind of sad story happening, offset by the kind of funny, goofy Indiana Jones adventure, and where like there's like all these traps, and they're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And Connor Kent just walks right through them. It's like, do any of them have kryptonite? No. So he just walks through the traps. It was a great comic. It really was. If you're looking to see where Green Lantern's at, pick up 587/20. It's a single story. You'll get all you need to know. You'll know if you like it or not. And now we're going to take another quick break. It's our last break of the show. We'll be back with more comics right after this. Did you read Batman: The Long Halloween, the last Halloween, number 5?
I dropped.
You shouldn't have.
I'm looking at the name, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna look at it.
The stories, whatever. I don't even I'll be completely honest with you. I don't even know what the story
That's
is.
why. But
it doesn't matter to me because every issue has had a different artist who doesn't really draw anymore drawing. And You're so right. I get in this issue, we get Jeff Loeb on story and Bill Sienkiewicz on interiors, with Dave Stewart coloring him. And it's wonderful. Bill Sienkiewicz is someone who Josh and I will tell you when we were kids, we're like, what the fuck? I don't like this at all.
I bought Elektra Assassin and I went,
Well, when you're 8, I can't imagine. I mean,
I would have. I mean, this was older. Like, this was teens,
even 14. I wouldn't like this.
And I'll tell you what turned me around. This is so dumb. There was an issue of Green Arrow that was drawn by Mike Norton, friend of the show,
Yes. Yep.
and it was inked by Sienkiewicz, and that was my
moment.
thread. I went, "Oh my god, look at that." And then I go back and I look at Sienkiewicz's art and I was like, "I get it now." It was like that. Like I got it. Watching him ink somebody. I love when he inks over people, but yeah.
He's drawing this, he employs arcs and everything. I've hung out with him. If you can see in the video, he did the cover of this comic that I edited called Dreadnought. I did an art book we also did an art book with him when I was working at 6 Foot Press. I went to his house. It was not far from where I live for about 3 hours, hung with him while he signed book plates for that art book.
Mm-hmm.
His house is just as crazy as you might think it is. It's a house/studio. There's shit everywhere. There's art supplies everywhere. There's toasters everywhere. He collects toasters. There's awards everywhere. Nicest guy I've ever met in comics. Like, there are guys as nice, but no one is nicer than Bill Sienkiewicz.
I love, and I've experienced this many times over, is that you'll see somebody's art or read their stories and just think, "Oh, this person's going to be a nightmare or a scary person or whatever." And then it was, I mean, I've never met Frank Miller, but I watched there was a documentary that came out from, and you like, you see him talking, you're like, "Oh, he's a dude. Like, he's just a dude. He's a good dude." And sometimes the art, or, the artwork or the art will scare you away from them, whatever reason. So, like, that's not surprising.
So anyway, this is worth noting just because Sienkiewicz hardly ever does interiors anymore, and this was a rare case of it, and it was really fun to look at. Again, I don't know what the story is. Something to do with holiday coming. I honestly don't really care. I've just been enjoying, like, people like Mike Chiarello who never do interiors, like all kinds of fun people doing work on that. Let's move on to Savage Sword of Conan #7. Checking back in, I just wanted to mention this was terrific. This was a story by Roy Thomas. So I don't know if it's new or not, but Roberto De La Torre did the art, and he's basically doing his best Bashima impression. And I thought this was a really fun, really good Conan story. This was one of the best ones they've done in this 7-issue run of this book, where they've been, anthologies. I don't even care what was in the rest of the issue. I didn't read it.
Oh my god, look at it.
It's gorgeous. He's basically doing Bashima.
I will tell the listeners I missed this one, so I didn't get a chance to read it, but I will. This is not.
It's really good. This is and Roy Thomas is one of the classic Conan writers. This is a great Conan story.
Yeah,
and it just looks like Bashima drew it. It looks like John Bashima drew it, and it's just awesome. And I really liked it. It was a really fun issue.
I feel like I have to. I think I did a bad job in programming my portion of the show today, because you
were angry this week.
Well, I think that people look back and be like, "Oh, you didn't like any of the comics this week," and that's not true. There's a lot of comics I liked. I can tell you right later, real quick. And by the way, this is the after show. If you wanted to be a patron and see that, like, this is what we would be talking about. Very short, but like Absolute Wonder Woman, X-Men, FML, Superman, Black Canary, G.I. Joe, like,
great books.
Great. I read Detective.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been able to catch it. I just read it and I was like, this was awesome.
Yeah.
So, but
you went against the ethos and you chose to complain this week, which is fine. You're allowed.
I just also, all those books I just mentioned, like, we've kind of talked about. I didn't have anything new to say other than, like, I really like this. And so, here we are.
It was a good week, but let's move on. Those are the books we wanted to talk about, but at patreon.com/iFanboy, every patron of the show gets a vote to add a book to the rundown. This week, the overwhelming favorite for the patron pick was Pop Kill. Oops, that's the wrong button. Pop Kill #1 from Jimmy Palmiotti. Jimmy Palmiotti and Dave Johnson on story. Dave Johnson, another artist, doesn't draw anymore. Art by Juan Santa Cruz.
He never did interiors. He just does covers.
He did in the very beginning.
A little bit, but.
Colors by Brian Reber, letters by Sean Conant. This is published by Mad Cave Studios. This originally came out as a Kickstarter many years ago.
I noticed that on the first page of the interior, it says Santa Cruz 2017. I was like, this is 8 years old.
This came out a long time ago on Kickstarter. Then it may have come out in other forms. It's now coming out again. It came out this week at Global Comics. Next week it'll be out in Comixology. We're in a Wild West scenario now with how comics are published.
It's in stores, or should be. I don't know if your store.
Well, Mad Cave would be putting it out, yeah. So this was the overwhelming favorite from the patrons. Josh and I are big fans of Jimmy Palmiotti's comic work. A lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it. I was thinking earlier, Josh, that if we really sat down and really thought about it for a while, got like a whiteboard, and we plotted out.
We're taking like a 6-month sabbatical to work on this.
If we quit our jobs and just work on this one project, and we really thought about what are the top 10 books that came out while we were doing the show, I would venture to think books that came out in the show. Just a guess.
Mm-hmm.
But this book wasn't very good.
I think there was a lot about it that was good. I think it was very interesting as a concept, but it felt dated.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a comic that used to come out that is maybe attractive to an older type of reader. There was a couple of times in this where some of the Japanese characters made me say, "Is this okay?" There was a couple of times in this where I was thinking about the protagonist, this blonde, oversexed killer dude.
It's blonde James Bond.
Yeah.
Well, which was Daniel Craig, but that's not who he is. But yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure who I was supposed to like. I liked the lady, but at the same time, like, her personality and her job didn't match what she looked like at all.
No.
If like the first time you see her, she comes out of a pool and she's naked and she has big fake porn star boobs and tiny bikini she's topless. Like I'm like.
Here's the question:
she's got this nerdy soda scientist job and is a little cute pug and is like.
If you were gonna go in your little swimming pool / bathtub in your own house, do you just go topless? Do you still wear bottoms in your own house?
I think people have weird hang-ups.
You think they do?
Some do.
Like if you're gonna go topless in your own house, you might as well. I mean, do you take a bath in your bathing suit?
I'll tell you what, it is not comfortable to sleep underneath for women. I don't care.
No, how do you breathe? That's a lot of body weight.
Yeah. And also it's not comfortable for the women.
Well, they're getting paid. They don't care. This is basically a takeoff of James Bond. Garth Ennis did this a couple years ago, a book called Jimmy's Bastards, and it's 100 times better and smarter and funnier. Again, like Jimmy Palmiotti work a lot, like Dave Johnson a lot. I just think this is a type of. I don't think the execution was that strong. I didn't think the Juan Santa Cruz art was that great. It felt like a Dynamite
things
book.
About it that were good, but then there's other things where it wasn't.
It felt like a Dynamite book art wise. It wasn't like the idea. If you read
the artist can't draw a turned wheel on a car. If you look through this, there are several instances where the wheel is in the car's turn. I was like, that's not what it looks like.
Oh, it's almost like. Well, maybe he's got a special spy car that the wheels turn.
Nope. There's another car. And sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it just wasn't. I think if you read the solicitation, it's a more interesting book than what actually happened. Like, I don't think I got from the actual book itself that the two soda companies, the rival soda companies, are they're conjoined twins. They're run by conjoined twins.
Oh, that's why they have one arm each?
Yes. But that wasn't in the book. That was in the solicitation copy.
Oh.
They didn't give you that information in the story. Was that it was a rivalry between two conjoined twins who've been separated. They basically run Coke and Pepsi, and they've hired this killer spy guy to fuck with the other guy's business. That's the overall, but it's not made clear in the book itself that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was not very well conceived.
She's got here's another. So
her hair is always in her face.
I mean, like she's drawn like the sexy, like scientist lady. She has really short hair when she's dressed, but in the first scene when she shows up, she seems to have long hair. Also, like she's in I guess her private pool on the veranda of a building in what I assume is Tokyo, and it's gigantic, which indicate that she's a billionaire. Because that's what that would. But then she has a mini in the UK or in Japan. Like there's a lot of little things where I was like, that doesn't quite make sense. And I also think that like the idea is that. I mean, the basic idea is that there's these two soda companies and then there's others too. And this is a cutthroat murder-filled business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a funny concept.
Yes.
Nothing else about the book was funny. Like I feel like if you're gonna do that, maybe it should be sillier. If
That's
that
what I
makes
mean. The
sense.
Garth Ennis book was over the top, and therefore it was funny. This was like a weird middle ground where it wasn't a straight up James Bond story. It was clearly a takeoff of it, but it wasn't funny enough to be a parody.
Because he's a mercenary and he's not a.
But it's still the type of story. So,
Sure.
it's not crazy enough to be a parody of it. It's still in the zone of it being realistic, but it wasn't. But it's about two soda companies, and there's like a silly jokes, and he's sleeping under 10 girls, and there's elements that should be parody, but they're not over the top enough to be parody, and therefore it doesn't hit like parody. It just was weird.
I think that there is a sensibility to this that maybe worked a little better in 2017, but after that, it feels a little.
I think it's from like 2007.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like the sensibility of this character as your protagonist has changed. Like it's weird because he's going to meet with this girl who is like the nicest, sweetest person, and like he's taking advantage of her, or at least he goes in for that. And it's just like, ugh, it feels creepy. Like he's lying to her. Pick, I'll take your walk, your dog. Like, I don't like him. I don't trust him. I don't want him to succeed. I don't know. It didn't work. God, the cover's gorgeous.
Yeah, well, the cover is there's like
Jay Johnson.
Yeah, and then there's a Amanda Connor cover, and it just I don't know. This was this didn't work for me. Conceptually, it was the concept's great, but
here's what I'll say. Like these are Palmiotti is a very
he loves Bond. I know he does.
Yeah, no, but he's also just a very experienced comic, so it wasn't like a slog to read or anything.
No.
Like I read through it and I was like, all right, I sort of get what's going on. And in the end, I was like, I don't know, didn't sit quite right with me for a bunch of reasons, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there's books that we've read like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah,
it wasn't that. It was like as a whole afterwards, I was like, all right, well, did it work? Why am I not? What is this?
Yeah, I don't think the execution. I just think if you're gonna do Bond, I'm just using Bond as an avatar here for this type of character. If you're gonna do Bond, do Bond. If you're gonna do a parody of Bond, do a parody of Bond. This met in the middle, and therefore didn't satisfy either lane for me.
Yeah,
and the art wasn't that great.
No.
So there you go. Pop kill number 1. Let's rate it. Ratings out of 5. Ratings.
If I'm gonna give it an overall value to how much I liked it, I'm gonna go with a 2.
Ooh.
Really? Because like I don't want to read more.
Yeah.
Like I sorry, that's a spoiler for the next part. And at the end, like I don't know. I don't even I like I don't know. Didn't sit right.
Yeah, I mean, a 2 seems a little low because it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't bad like some of the other books we've read in the last couple of weeks.
I'm using a sliding scale.
I know every book is its own special snowflake. I'm going to give it a 2.3.
We're in the same area.
Okay, second question. Were you going to read this without it being the patron pick? The answer is no.
No, I didn't know it existed.
And the third question, which you've already answered, are you sticking with it? The answer is no.
No.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks, patrons, for voting.
I'm not mad about it.
No.
There's been ones where I'm like, ugh, that was a waste of time.
No. I didn't think that at all. And I also think, this will be interesting to talk about why this didn't work. And that's sometimes a fun, or at least an enjoyable, or at least a valuable conversation.
Sure.
I dialed it back 3 levels.
There you go. Nice work.
What are we doing now? Let's talk about the patrons.
Patron power.
That's right. Thanks for being patrons. So if you're going to every patron gets a vote at a book the rundown, but if you're a patron at the $5 or higher level, you get a patron power live on the show. This week's patron is Christopher Landvick. Christopher Landvick's power. He knows the value of anything that he looks at. So like he looks at your car and he knows the real value of it. Like this is how much your car is worth.
The value but this is what you could sell it for.
It is the value of it, not what you bought for, but what the value is currently. He's great at a yard sale or a flea market. Like, there is a painting over there that is worth $3 million, and they're selling it for $40.
Does he know why?
He just knows the value. He sees a little number on top of it. He sees it. It's the power he activates. It's not like always on. He sees.
Okay. Oh,
like he activates his power. He goes, okay, your laptop is 10 years old and it doesn't really run. It's worth $10. Like he just knows the value.
People.
Well, that was the second part I was going to get to.
Net worth.
Sadly, it does work on people.
Ugh.
This is an intrusion. We understand that. We all know it.
Wait.
He knows your net worth.
All right. Knows your net worth isn't the same as value, though.
In his power's mind, it's the same.
Right. That's fine. Because what I was thinking of is a dog. I was like, because a dog is worth something.
Oh, ask anyone in West Hollywood who owns a pug.
Right. And so,
he just looks at you, Josh, and says, "Here's Josh's number." And so he says, "Wow, Josh is worth $13 million. I didn't realize that."
Me neither.
It's an intrusion, absolutely. It's a violation of privacy, yes. But in a world full of telepaths and other people, this is just what happens. So Christopher knows the value of objects and the value of people. Not in that way.
That was the
net worth way.
There's the potential that like when he looked at
not earning power.
I was trying to think of somebody I could mention, then I only thought of people I didn't want to mention.
Okay, so
Warren Buffett. If you looked at Warren Buffett in 1960, would he know?
Not potential. No.
Okay,
he would know Warren Buffett's
current market value.
Yeah, current market value of Josh Flanagan, $13 million. People don't know that, but Josh is very rich.
And I won't give a dime to this show.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Thanks for being a patron, Christopher.
Which is hypocritical.
And we appreciate it. We have at least time for. I think we have time for 2 emails. Let's do the first one. Let's add this to the show. The first email comes from Peter S. from Cape Coral, Florida. He says, "I'm currently attempting to read Robert Kirkman's Cory Walker's and Ryan Otley's Invincible. Don't need all those apostrophe S's, but we appreciate it. Well, it has to be the third or fourth time. Each time I get 2 or 4 trades in and fizzle out. In some ways, it reminds me of Astro City, which is one of my favorite series of all time. In other ways, it reminds me of Bendis's Ultimate Spider-Man, the comic that made me fall in love with the medium in the first place. But eventually, I lose interest and drop off, only to pick up the trades a couple years later, thinking maybe this time it'll click. What do you love about Invincible? Is there some insight you can offer that might hook me into finally completing the series?" Peter S. from Cape Coral, Florida.
I feel like I have questions about the process that he's doing. So is it that each time he goes back to where he starts from the beginning? In which case, are you reading like 3 or 4 trades in a row? Because that could be enough for you for a while. In the real world, those were spaced out. It's difficult to read that much of something, even if you like it. So when you drop off, are you coming back to where you left off, or are you starting over?
No, it sounds like from the email he's reading. Let me see. It sounds like he's starting over every time.
Well, I think that's part. Like it's okay. Just space it out some.
Again, we don't. You're right. We don't know if he's reading 4 trades in one sitting, or 4 days. We don't know what the cadence of his reading is.
He didn't describe. He described what he liked about it in several ways,
but not what he didn't like about it.
But not what he didn't. So this is difficult. I can tell you that I haven't read it in a really long time. But I know that at the time, it felt very fresh and fun. It was in the way that you said it was like Ultimate Spider-Man. It was that, but even more so is that it was a superhero story, like a straight up superhero comic drama that was unburdened by any continuity. And Robert Kirkman understood and could formulate that genre so well that he just made it feel like any Marvel comic that had its own history and world, but he was in complete control of it. But all of the language, all of the mechanisms of it were very recognizable as just high level comic books.
But also true epic.
Yes.
I mean, it went on for like a decade.
Reveals, like
a cast of thousands.
The same thing that made The Walking Dead successful in that genre was in this book. And because, I think we can say it at this point, like he's a genius. He's one of the greatest comic book creators to ever work in this industry, and he had been from day one. And I think that captured it. He's done a lot of series since then that maybe, were different because he has the freedom to sort of work in whatever he wants to. But at that point, it was just fun and both familiar and fresh. The issues on an issue by issue basis or trade by trade, they always left you with a reveal and a cliffhanger and wanting more.
It was a comic book 101.
Mark was very Peter Parker like. Not exactly the same character, but like wanting to do the right thing, but had a lot of power and would make decisions. And I guess he was an older teenager at the beginning.
Redheaded girlfriend.
Yeah.
It worked on a lot of levels. I read the series in trade up until the very end, and then I read the last arc in issues so that we could talk about it on the show more. But it worked as on trades. It worked in issues, and it almost feels like the last gasp of the type of storytelling we talk about all the time on the show, where it's a soap opera. You know, there were arcs, there were distinct stories that were told, but it was a decades-long soap opera with a cast of thousands in a way that comics are just not made anymore. There are no comics being made like Invincible, no superhero comics telling that kind of story.
Well, nothing is guaranteed. Well, it wasn't guaranteed to last that long, but at a certain point, like he was clearly going to be able to do it as long as he wanted to.
And he did a long time. I don't remember how many trades there were, but there was
I guess the other thing about it was a fresh, basic concept. The idea is this kid is out working at the fast food restaurant, and he throws a bag of trash. I remember some of it, and the trash goes up into the atmosphere. And so there's your superpower / puberty metaphor.
Right.
Talks to his dad, and son, we've got something to tell you. So there's the first reveal. Dad is Omni-Man, famous superhero. Oh my God. Cool. Right. This is really interesting. I'm into it. Hold on.
There's another twist.
Omni-Man is not what you think he is.
Right.
You get a little more. Furthermore, what are the Viltrumites?
Viltrumites.
I am really surprising myself right here. My short-term memory is garbage, but I remember things like this. You know, then they are a certain thing. Then there's a whole political space opera thing that goes like it was everything. Corey Walker was really good, and I think he did a great job setting up. Ryan Ottley is amazing. You know, and he made a book that, you know, it took all he had all the best influences, and he had his own style. The book looked great.
Ran for 15 years, came out in 2003, and then 2018.
Like clockwork.
I don't think it's an example of you had to be there. I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
But the you know, it's art, and the thing about art is it just may not be for you. There are a lot of people who didn't like it. We loved it. It was one of our favorite superhero books coming out during that period. When everybody was talking about Walking Dead, we were banging the drum for Invincible from the very beginning. We liked Walking Dead a lot too, but we were like, guys, this book is also really good.
I think there were times where we were definitely like, this is the best superhero book on the stands right now. I'm almost sure of it.
But again, it just may not be for you, Peter. That's perfectly understandable if it isn't. You know what's really funny is I was going through our old videos the other day, and you remember, but the episode where we interviewed Kirkman and you wore all that Walking Dead gear, and then suddenly the cast of the Walking Dead came out, and Frank Darabont suddenly felt like an asshole. Steven Yeun, who played,
here's the line. Want me to pick him up? I'll pick him up.
What is his name?
Mark Grayson.
Mark. He played Mark in the cartoon. In that video, he's at the Image booth, and he stacks up all the Invincible trades. And this is like 10 years before he played Mark. I thought that was interesting. There's a shot of him, literally like he's got I think Kirk was to just take whatever you want. He has got like 40 Invincible books. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, 25 collected editions, 200 something issues. It was a superhero epic, unlike that they can do anymore. I'd love to reread it. I'd love to have the time to do it.
I was actually thinking about that. Like, I don't think I would reread it.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
It's been so long.
In the lines of, it's not that. It's just not. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing I would reread. But I don't know.
We loved it from the very beginning. So, again, if it's not for you, Peter, just not for you. But maybe
chase it out.
Check out the new trade that you haven't read, because I think I did this with Strangers in Paradise. I read the first 3 or 4 trades of that book like 4 times before I ever got past it, because I would put them. I would get distracted, and then it would be like 2 years would go by, and I'd go, oh, shit, I got to reread this because I don't remember what happened. I'd read them again, and then I would never make progress. I think I did that with Starman too until the hardcovers came out. And I finally pushed through where I kept stopping. Sometimes you just need to push yourself through. Just read the next volume, something new, and if you don't like that, then you don't like it. That's totally fine.
Read one every 6 months. Just put a thing on your calendar.
Yeah,
every 6 months, read the next one.
But I think it's important to read the next one he has never read.
Mm-hmm.
A new Invincible material, and if you don't like that one, then you don't like it, and it's fine.
And they read really fast.
Yeah,
like
they do.
But the issues went super fast, and the trades were like 6 issues a piece, and you'd like.
It's totally okay if you don't like it. That's fine. Read the next one while I cough.
JB of Michigan says, I've been thinking about this question ever since the Metropolitan Opera announced their 25-26 season last week. Okay. The Met is performing an opera adapted from The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by composer Mason Bates and librettist Gene Shear. Is there any chance that iFanboy could send a correspondent to a performance and report back? Sadly, the opera isn't part of their Met in HD broadcast series, so someone with boots on the ground in NYC, Ron Richards most likely, would need to go in person. This is a strange email in many ways.
He's sending us an assignment. It's funny because you and I talk about Kavalier and Clay a lot. Obviously, we did the books build last year too, but I for the life of me couldn't remember if Ron even ever read it. It's just been a long time. The book came out like 25 years ago. So we messaged him today and said, Ron, did you like Kavalier and Clay? He's like, yeah. He's like, would you go to see the opera? He's like, sure.
Kavalier and Clay was the Hamilton of comic book readers in 2000.
But him saying sure, I wouldn't bet the farm he's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume he's not going to do it, but he said he would.
I don't know if he's the best person
for the opera
to give.
He's Italian.
A useful feedback on that subject.
They sang real good.
But he'd be like, that was great.
I would love to go just to see what the fuck. What the fuck? Like a Kavalier and Clay opera? I would just go just to see what was happening.
I will also say I have a very difficult time even conceiving of that. Like,
you're not an opera guy.
I don't know. I'm not pro, and I don't know.
You don't own a tuxedo. You're not sitting at any boards currently.
Currently.
And after that last time, no more.
It could happen at any point.
Sure.
I don't know. I
get emails all the time asking me to join.
I'm not closing doors that haven't opened yet.
Sure.
That said, we just read the Bendis book about the adaptation of Spider-Man for Broadway, and this sounds dumber than that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe not dumber, but more inconceivable.
That's what I mean. That's totally why I would go. It's like, what is going to happen?
And
who is going to go?
Like it's about poor Jewish immigrants who are teenagers.
Yeah. What do you think? People love that in New York.
No, I get that, but does it lend itself to
Well, that's the real question. Is office politics really that exciting for a song? But I know just from paying attention and having grown up in New York that they've been trying to modernize the Met for a long time, and they've been trying to come up with shows that would bring in younger and more diverse audiences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Kavalier and Clay is it, but
it's a 25-year-old book about the 40s.
Right, that's what I mean. I don't know that that's the one, but the kids, they like superheroes. This book won the Pulitzer Prize. Perfect.
It's so funny though, because to me the strength of that book is a lot of strength of it, but the prose of it, the beauty of the language in it, is the major strength of it. It's good stories, good care, all that stuff, but I don't know how that translates. I don't understand.
That's 100% why I would go, just to see how it translates or how it does.
Yeah.
So anyway, we took your orders. We asked Ron if he would go. He said sure. There was an LOL in there. I don't know what that means. If he actually goes, we will get his feedback. If he doesn't go, no one will be surprised. So thank you, Jay, for writing in. I didn't even know this was happening. So strange. Just dropped on us all of a sudden. We want to hear from you. Contact@ifanboy.com is how you can get on the show by writing in like Jay and Peter did. Thanks for doing so. You can also write into our Media Explode show by writing Media Explode, the subject line. Thank you very much. And let's talk about some other podcasts we did. Before we get out of here, we had 2 weeks ago our Captain America Brave New World review. Paul Montgomery and I talked about it. Have that review for you. You can find it on the feed behind this one. You can find it on YouTube. Not a very positive review, but it was an almost hour-long discussion, and it was interesting, I thought. And then this past week, Josh put out his Talk Split interview with Scott Snyder.
It's not short.
No, it's almost 2 hours.
Scott and I talked a lot. Scott talked about sort of the beginning of his career and sort of where he is now, and he is, if nothing else, fearlessly honest in sort of talking about his journey and experiences, both personal and professional. I think mean it's worth listening to for sure. Not just because if you're a Scott fan, but just sort of the environment and world that he came up in comics. I mean, you got like, I was reminded of this as I was sort of getting ready for it. Like this guy showed up from out of nowhere.
With a Stephen King co-wrote book.
With a Stephen King co-wrote book, and within no time he was Batman and has been basically at the top of the heap for DC writers since that time.
Yep.
And he was miserable for most of it.
Well,
and I don't say that as a joke, but like,
no, he's right.
And he gets very into that stuff. I think it's definitely, you should go check that out. That is there for you, as always, at no cost.
Right behind the feed for this, on the feed right behind the show. You can check it out. And in March, which is happening very soon, we'll have our Media Explode post Oscars special, which will come out the week after or days after the Oscars. This,
it will be March.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Well, most of you. No, it will be. Everyone. It'll be March for everybody.
Even people in Australia.
I don't know when it is there.
It's December. I don't know. It's upside down. And then also in March, we're gonna have our Booksplode review of Legends, the first event from DC after Crisis on Infinite Earths that sort of set up the whole universe. We're gonna have that review, and then we'll have our Watchmen Chapter 2 animated review. Ryan Haupt and I already recorded it. It's already loaded in the system. We're just waiting to release it, and we'll have all that happening in March. In the meantime, you can find our library of tons and tons of shows, over 1,400 of them, over at ifanboy.com, wherever podcasts are sold. Never miss a show. Find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out by following us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and Threads, or at ifanboy.com on Blue Sky. And individually, we are CS Kilpatrick on Instagram and J.A. Flanagan on Instagram.
For now, you can consider writing us a review or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening on Pocket Casts, you need to be subscribed and have downloaded a few episodes before you can rate it. You can subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy, which is a lot more relevant now than we were talking about it last year. You can watch the video versions of all of these shows.
That's right. We're doing the push to 5,000 subscribers. So if you're a listener but haven't subscribed, you don't have to watch it there, but subscribe. I don't even know where the number is, but we are literally a couple of hundred people away, and there's way more than that listening to this show. So a small fraction of you go and subscribe. That'd be awesome. Just go there. Go to youtube.com/ifanboy. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the button. The bell apparently alerts you when the new show comes out. I don't know, but subscribe.
It's a bell. We should trademark that. All of our old video shows are there that we did from 2007 to 2012. So we're both very modern and very old. Finally, join. We were early. We were ahead of the curve.
Great back then.
Goddamn everything. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's very nice of you to say about us. Finally, join us on the iFanboy After Show exclusively on Patreon, where we will share all of our thoughts on the other books we read this week that didn't make the rundown. A little quick catch up through there. I think this week it will probably be worth it for sure. That's patreon.com/ifanboy.
18 books.
For everyone at the $10 a month tier and up. Thank you for listening and joining us today and every week.
And we'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Connor.
Josh Flanagan.
Esquire.